November 5th, 2021. NRG Park, Houston, Texas. The air buzzed with an electric energy, charged with the anticipation of tens of thousands of young, eager fans. This was Astroworld Festival, the brainchild of superstar rapper Travis Scott. Scott wasn't just a musician, he was a phenomenon, known for cultivating a cult-like following and delivering concert experiences that pushed the boundaries of live performance. His shows weren't just concerts, they were chaotic, high-octane events dubbed Rage Mode, where fans were encouraged to lose themselves in a primal, cathartic frenzy. The promise of Astroworld was nothing short of a utopian escape, a peak moment of shared euphoria for its dedicated attendees. As the day dawned, NRG Park swelled with an estimated 50,000 people, far beyond what some might consider a safe crowd for the venue. The excitement was palpable, almost a tangible force. Fans, many having camped out for days, surged towards the gates, ready to immerse themselves in Scott's unique blend of music, performance art, and raw energy. Yet, even before the main act took the stage, subtle cracks began to appear in the meticulously planned facade. Reports circulated, whispers at first, then more urgent accounts of people breaching fences, overwhelming security checkpoints, and a general sense of disorganization that seemed to spiral out of control. Videos emerged of eager fans trampling over barriers, ignoring security, desperate to get inside. This chaotic initial entry, fueled by the sheer volume and unchecked enthusiasm of the crowd, foreshadowed the dark events to come. It was a hint, a subtle tremor, that the promise of utopia might be built on shaky ground. As the gates officially opened, the floodgates truly opened. Thousands of eager fans, many without tickets, surged forward, a human wave crashing towards the main stage. The sheer force of the incoming crowd created immediate, intense density. What began as an exhilarating rush quickly morphed into a struggle for personal space, then a fight for air. The scene, once brimming with joyous anticipation, now held a subtle undercurrent of uncontrolled energy, a dangerous precursor to the unfolding tragedy. The stage was set, the lights were dimming, and Travis Scott was about to appear, unknowingly igniting a catastrophic chain reaction that would transform a night of promised euphoria into a horrifying, unforgettable nightmare. The crowd, a sea of 50,000 bodies, pressed forward, a collective wave of anticipation. Then a roar erupted as Travis Scott took the stage. Pyrotechnics exploded, lights flashed, and the bass reverberated through the very ground. The energy was electric, reaching a fever pitch as the music began. Fans, fueled by excitement and a desire to be closer to their idol, surged forward with immense, uncontrollable force. What began as an exhilarating push quickly morphed into an invisible danger, a crowd crush. In such a dense human mass, the pressure became immense. People were no longer individuals moving. They were trapped, unable to control their own direction or even lift their arms. The force of the crowd was so overwhelming that it was like being caught in a human vice, squeezed from all directions. The most terrifying aspect of a crowd crush is compression asphyxia, the inability to breathe because the chest cavity cannot expand. Survivors later recounted the terrifying progression. Initial discomfort soon turned to panic. People began to feel claustrophobic, then desperate. They tried to scream, but their voices were swallowed by the roaring music and the collective frenzy. Hands reached out, pleading for help, but there was nowhere to go. "Stop the show! Stop the show!" became a desperate, repeated plea from those trapped within the crushing walls of humanity. But the music continued. The stage lights blazed, and Travis Scott performed, seemingly unaware of the silent, horrific battle for survival unfolding just feet away. Security and medical personnel, either overwhelmed by the sheer size of the crowd or unable to see the extent of the crisis in the dense, pulsating mass, appeared helpless or oblivious. The pleas from the audience, captured on chilling phone footage that would later go viral, went unheeded for agonizing minutes. People began to collapse. Individuals deprived of oxygen simply fell, creating dangerous pockets of collapse, where others then tripped and piled on top. The euphoric promise of Astroworld had dissolved into a living nightmare. Fans who had come for a night of music now found themselves fighting for their very lives, trapped in a suffocating, terrifying struggle that would claim lives and forever scar the memories of those who survived the concert that became a catastrophe. As the crowd crush reached its deadly peak, a horrifying reality began to set in, though tragically, not quickly enough for everyone. For agonizing minutes, the music continued to blare, the pyrotechnics still exploded, and Travis Scott kept performing, seemingly unaware of the mass casualty event unfolding directly in front of his stage. This disturbing fact would later become a central point of contention and outrage. The concert continued even as people were dying. When the show finally paused, or the crowd was eventually forced to disperse, the scene that emerged was one of absolute chaos and unspeakable horror. The ground was littered not just with discarded trash, but with unconscious bodies. Desperate attendees, some with training, others simply driven by raw human instinct, frantically tried to pull people from the piles, performing CPR on the ground amidst the dazed and traumatized survivors. The air, once filled with the roar of music, was now thick with the sound of sirens, the screams of anguish, and the frantic cries of people searching for loved ones. Paramedics and emergency responders, quickly overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the disaster, struggled to navigate through the still dense crowd. They were met with a horrific tableau. Individuals suffering from compression asphyxia, broken bones, and severe trauma. Makeshift medical stations were set up, but the sheer volume of critically injured people quickly exhausted resources. It was no longer a concert, it was a mass casualty incident. The grim tally began to emerge. 10 fatalities, ranging in age from just 9 years old to 27, were confirmed in the days and weeks that followed. These were young lives, full of promise, tragically cut short by a concert. Hundreds more were injured, many critically, requiring extensive medical care and facing long roads to recovery. Each victim had a name, a family, a story, a heartbreaking reminder of the human cost of this catastrophe. In the immediate aftermath, a torrent of questions erupted from the shocked public. How could this happen at a major music festival in modern America? Who was responsible for this catastrophic failure of safety? And perhaps most hauntingly, why wasn't the show stopped sooner? The initial euphoria of Astroworld had evaporated, replaced by a profound sense of grief, outrage, and a chilling realization that a promised night of fun had transformed into an inexplicable, horrifying, and utterly preventable tragedy. The mystery now shifted from what happened to who, if anyone, would be held accountable for the chaos and the dead. As the grim details of the Astroworld tragedy emerged, fueled by viral videos showing the escalating chaos and harrowing survivor accounts, a wave of furious public outrage swept across the nation. Questions quickly turned to accusations, and the blame game began. Anger was directed not only at Travis Scott, the artist whose Rage Mode concerts were known for their intensity, but also at Live Nation, the event promoter, NRG Park, the venue, and even the city of Houston for their perceived failures in ensuring safety. The immediate aftermath saw an unprecedented cascade of lawsuits, victims' families reeling from their unimaginable losses, and hundreds of injured attendees facing physical and psychological trauma swiftly filed legal complaints. These lawsuits targeted Travis Scott, Live Nation, and numerous other entities involved in the festival's organization, seeking billions of dollars in damages. The sheer scale of the legal challenges highlighted the catastrophic breakdown of safety protocols and communication that had led to so much suffering. The core of the legal battle centered on the complex web of responsibility. Was it solely Travis Scott's fault for not stopping the show or for creating a culture of chaos? Was it Live Nation's responsibility for inadequate crowd management, insufficient security personnel, or poorly trained staff? Were medical provisions sorely lacking, unable to cope with the immense scale of the crisis? And what about the communication between the stage, security teams, and emergency services? Each party pointed fingers, attempting to deflect blame in a legal labyrinth that would take years to untangle. This intricate dance of accusation and denial highlighted the mystery of how multiple layers of supposed safety could fail so spectacularly. Travis Scott's initial responses were met with mixed reactions. He expressed grief, offered to pay for victims' funerals, and initiated mental health support. However, his public image suffered immensely, leading to brand deals being canceled and his withdrawal from the spotlight as the legal storms raged. Adding another layer to the already complex aftermath, law enforcement, specifically the Houston Police Department, launched a criminal investigation. A grand jury was convened to determine if criminal charges were warranted against any individuals or organizations involved. This meant that beyond the civil lawsuits, the possibility of criminal negligence or other offenses loomed large, thrusting the tragedy further into the legal darkness and promising a protracted fight for definitive answers and accountability. The concert that promised euphoria had become a devastating legal battleground, where the pursuit of justice was as turbulent as the crowd crush itself. The echoes of the Astroworld tragedy continued to reverberate long after the crowds dispersed. The immediate aftermath had devolved into a complex legal quagmire, and years later, the legal battles are still ongoing. Hundreds of lawsuits, consolidated into a massive legal challenge, slowly make their way through the courts. While some settlements have been reached, many victims sprout. Families and survivors continue their protracted fight for justice and compensation, a slow and agonizing process that offers little true solace. The monetary figures involved are staggering, highlighting the immense human cost and the perceived scale of negligence. A pivotal moment arrived with the grand jury's decision in June 2023. After a thorough criminal investigation by the Houston Police Department, the grand jury chose not to file criminal charges against Travis Scott, Live Nation employees, or other individuals involved in the concert's organization. This decision, while legally sound in the eyes of the grand jury, was met with mixed reactions, causing further anguish for some families who felt a lack of criminal accountability for the deaths of their loved ones. It underscored the difficulty of proving criminal negligence in such complex, large-scale events. Despite the lack of criminal charges, the Astroworld tragedy sparked widespread calls for major reforms in concert safety and crowd management protocols. Industry experts, lawmakers, and event organizers have reviewed and revised guidelines emphasizing better crowd control, clearer communication channels between various security and emergency personnel, improved access for first responders, and quicker show stoppages when crowd distress is observed. The event became a grim, undeniable case study, forcing the live music industry to reevaluate its practices to prevent such a catastrophe from ever happening again. Yet, for the victims' families and many survivors, the fundamental why continues to haunt them. Why did so many young lives perish? Why wasn't the show stopped sooner, despite desperate pleas from the audience? Who truly holds the moral and ethical responsibility when a planned joyous event turns into such a horrifying disaster? These are the unanswered questions that legal rulings and investigations may never fully resolve, leaving a lingering mystery of accountability in the public's mind. The Astroworld Festival remains a stark and painful scar on the landscape of live entertainment. It serves as a chilling reminder of the delicate, sometimes deadly balance between euphoric experience and catastrophic danger. The trauma for survivors endures, and the deep grief of the victims' families is a constant, heartbreaking testament. The tragedy is forever etched into history as a concert that became a horrifying, unnecessary catastrophe. A dark lesson learned at an unimaginable cost, and a constant call for vigilance in ensuring safety at mass gatherings.